Here we go. Good morning, squad. Hope everybody's doing absolutely fantastic on Tuesday, December 6th. I hope that for those of you that attended Friday evening's soiree, that you have recovered. I would say for the 8 or 9 or 10 years that we've been doing these parties, I would have to say that Friday night was my favorite. And the reason why I would say Friday night was my favorite was there was no shenanigans that I had to deal with. People were well behaved. The other thing that was totally surprising and shocking, to me at least, because I was somewhat skeptical, was how much people embraced the theme. And seeing some of the costumes were absolutely incredible, like really, really phenomenal. So I want to lead with that. And oops, 1 second. Sorry, guys. I'm over in Tosa this morning and I'm dealing with a little technical. Here we go. 1 sec. Whoops. All right, 1 sec. I'm not on my computer this morning, so it's throwing me off a little bit. Well, here's what I tell you. First of all, I got to give a big shout out to Britt and Keck out in Lake Country, Sydney Warner in North Shore, and Caitlin over in Tosa. What those guys did, again, I don't think people truly understand the logistics. It is the equivalent of throwing a wedding. We had 400 plus, close to 500 people that attended Friday night throughout the evening, and trying to get food, beverage, location that's centrally located for everyone to want to show up to, and a DJ that could play the tunes that would get the dance floor going was absolutely incredible. So I owed a debt of gratitude to those guys. A big shout out to Amanda Schroeder and Peter Gossman, who helped us identify and find local vendors to utilize from a catering perspective for us to help and continue to support small businesses in and around our community. So guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I hope everybody enjoyed the evening, and I would tell you, save the date, because the date has always been the same. Save the date for next year if you enjoyed Friday evening, to run it back on the Friday. It's always the Friday after Thanksgiving, because we try and host our event early as possible in the holiday season so that we're not competing with a variety of different events that are going on. Cool. So Friday after Thanksgiving, I didn't look at the date. It's probably December 1st or December 3rd. I can't remember which way the dates go when you move forward a year. But Friday after Thanksgiving. One other thing too, guys, I want to give a shout out for everybody who participated in the holiday season of giving with United Way. We ran a 1-week campaign. I'm super incredibly thankful and sharing gratitude for everybody who participated in giving to United Way this year. In 1 week, we raised over $10,000. So I wanted to thank the group for those that participated in giving to United Way. Again, the big thing with United Way, and the reason why we chose it, is it supports over 200 organizations in southeastern Wisconsin. Best part about it is, for those of you who did donate, you were able to select a charity of your choice that it specifically goes towards, or you can select and choose the Community Impact Fund, where they choose to allocate the dollars within their budget. So as I stated last week, is kind of a kickoff, is I just wanted to say thank you for everybody for showing up for the holiday party. We wanted to introduce a way in which that we could show people ways that you can make an impact with our community outside of just showing up to the event. So we sincerely appreciate everybody who participated. And just for those that haven't and are still thinking about it, we're going to be closing down our campaign here at the end of the day today. So I have this up on screen if you're interested in participating again. With that, I'm going to flip it over. Oh, here, my computer's finally working real quick. And you can just laugh. I do want to say, for those of you who are on the Zoom, or for those who are in a room, I would love your participation to ask who you thought was the best dressed. And those who was the best dressed, I have a little something special for you based on what your peers think. So more so wanted to share some pictures from the evening as a way to bring smiles to people's faces on a beautiful Tuesday morning in December. Last thing, all of it's possible because we have incredible vendor partners who are willing to help and participate in a partnership with us. These are folks that very much value our partnership, and a partnership goes two ways, right? It's not just us asking money. It's also those who are support for us in our responsibilities to support those who support us. The two biggest ones that I want to shout out, Focus Title and Brian Klut's team over at Fairway Mortgage were the two largest underwriters of the event last week. These guys make it possible for us to throw an incredible event for you, for your spouse, for your partners and everybody without having to ask any sort of way in participation. And again, for those of you that have thrown a wedding, you understand the expenses to a wedding. Again, also shout out to Brad Tyndall out in Lake Country with Epic Mortgage, APHW, America's Preferred Home Warranty with Erica Kelly. They got the team over at Anchor Moving Systems, Mark Henry with Integrated Home Inspections, the team over at Bank of England with Jody and Jake, Cinch Home Warranty, Envoy Mortgage, and then as always, Andy with Camo Crew. So more news to come. Again, we really try and protect your time as it relates to sponsors, but we'll have these guys on here to talk about a little bit more about what they do as a way for us to support them for supporting us. Sound good? Beautiful. All right. With that, I'm flipping it over to Sherry Hippenbecker. Sherry is the general counsel for Knightberry Title as well as Focus Title. And I asked Sherry to kind of come on because we've seen some interesting things show up within our industry. And Sherry's going to give us some insights and ideas as to ways in which fraud is showing up and things that you should be paying attention to as we wrap up the year and head into 2023. Sherry, I'm flipping it to you.
Hey, thank you very much, Charlie. Again, my name is Sherry Hippenbecker. I'm general counsel at Knightberry Title. As you know, Focus Title is a joint venture partnership with Knightberry Title. Sorry, I have spam risk coming in on that. Appreciate the opportunity to be able to join you. I'm going to take a little bit of time to talk about a new fraud that we're seeing that started in Florida in January of 2022 and has eked its way up to Wisconsin, because all good frauds start in Florida and eventually they're going to come into the Midwest. So want to make you aware of this fraud so that if something happens, you go, okay, pause. I think I heard about this, and here are a few steps that I can take to be able to prevent this fraud. I'm going to share my screen here. Oh, and Charlie, by the way, if I do it all a good job, I want to let you know that I am available that first Friday after Thanksgiving in the year 2023 to join you on that party. So hopefully I do a nice enough job today to be able to get deserve an invite for that.
Sherry, I would love to see you on the dance floor at 11:30 at night on a Friday.
Oh, heck yeah, my friend. I might get that hotel room and stay up until 1 o'clock.
There you go. Oh, yeah. We don't tell stories after midnight.
Yeah. All right. So here's the fraud that started taking place in January of 2022 or so in Florida. Because again, all good frauds start in Florida. We all know that cyber criminals are trying to steal money. They've tried to steal money by getting your buyers to wire transfer their cash to close to these cyber criminals. They try to steal money by having Knightberry and Focus Title wire out sellers' proceeds or mortgage payoffs to the cyber criminals. The new fraud is the cyber criminals say, hey, let's not just steal the money. Let's just steal the entire transaction. Let's impersonate a person that owns real property, convince a realtor to list that real property, sign an offer to purchase using DocuSign, and then get a fraudulently signed deed that with a fraudulent notary to be able to get the money at the end of the day, sell the property and get the money to these cyber criminals. Here's an example of one that one of our realtors in Florida received an email from Klug Dieter. By the way, these cyber criminals are always going to be dealing with property that's unoccupied, vacant land, because you as a realtor, of course, want to be able to see a property if you're going to list a property. But if it's vacant land or unoccupied, maybe you won't have access to be able to get into the property. Here's the email that was sent over to the realtor where Klug Dieter starts talking about, hey, I want to sell this vacant property in Navarre, Florida. By the way, I'm in urgent need of cash. I'm in Southeast Asia right now because I have health problems. I originally live in Germany, but hey, I lost my house due to fire and an accident. And I need to sell this property in Florida and I got to pay these medical bills. This is an obnoxious email. And the realtor, thankfully in Florida, figured it out, reached out to us and said, is this a legit person that's really trying to sell their property? We said, why don't you have Klug Dieter go ahead and send us his passport? So he sends this particular passport. I look at this picture and I said, wait a second. I had received that passport and that picture on an earlier transaction in an alert. So immediately I paused that out because this was, these cyber criminals, they're a little bit, they're not, I don't know, they're going for the low hanging fruit. They don't, they could have created a new passport for my Klug Dieter. They didn't. They used one from Hans Sorgel. We immediately kicked this one out and said, no, somebody's trying to impersonate the real owner of the property. So we said, stop. But this isn't the only one that's happened. We at least once a week get one of these type of situations where we are being asked to ensure a sale by a seller who is not going to show up for closing, sign a deed in our presence. It's becoming quite rampant in Florida. And we know that it's happened in Wisconsin because we know one of the realtors at Keller Williams, her daughter in Wisconsin owns vacant property worth about $350,000. It's been listed 3 times by different realtors because the realtors didn't know that this was an issue to be aware of. So we wanted to bring
Sherry,
this, please.
I'm going to just jump in here real quick. If you're not paying attention, I want to repeat what she just said. Okay. We have an agent, and I think I'm fine sharing Robin McCormick out in Lake Country. Okay. Robin McCormick's daughter owns a vacant lot out in Waukesha County. The vacant lot is owned clear and scot-free with no debt on it. Okay. It has been listed in the MLS on 3 separate occasions by agents believing they are listing somebody else's vacant lot land that just so happens to not live in the area and that they can only transact this deal over the email. So the reason why I had Sherry come on is because I get it. I hear you. Some people are sitting here thinking, wow, that's Florida. I'll wait until it shows up here. Guess what? It's showing up because we've already dealt with it. Okay. The other common area in which this shows up is unoccupied or vacant homes that are also, the big key to this is that they are, Sherry, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that they are owned wholly. There's no mortgage, there's no debt, there's nothing holding on to that property. So Sherry, I wanted to interrupt you there so that these guys understood that this is like real life stuff that we actually deal with on an everyday basis, and that it can impact them if they're not paying enough attention.
And I appreciate that. That's exactly right. Those common red flags that you talk about, it's unimproved or vacant, absentee owner type property. Usually it's free and clear of mortgages. The reason is that the criminals want to go ahead and get as much bang for their buck as they can. Usually there's a connection to the person that's impersonating that seller to one or more foreign countries. The email I just showed you, Franz Dieter lived in Germany, but was in Southeast Asia and owned property in Florida. Does that sound legit? Typically, the fraudster only wants to communicate via text or email. That's exactly what we had with that Franz Dieter situation. The ID presented is a forgery. And the most important, there's a request for the funds to be wired transferred high, because that's the whole fraud. They're trying to get money out of this. It is alive and kicking. Yes, it started in Florida. It's creeped into California quite a bit, but it's up here. And the instance that you just indicated about Robin is not the isolated instance in the state of Wisconsin. The criminals are expanding their footprint to any location where there's vacant land, unoccupied, and many times when the owner of the real property lives outside of the area. Let's say it's a second home situation. Maybe they live in Canada, maybe they live in a different country. So a couple things is to be aware of, is those are your steps to look for. How do you prevent it? Well, we want to scrutinize those emails and texts and go, does it make sense? I mean, Franz Dieter, come on. Really, you're in Southeast Asia. You need urgent cash right now. Your house burnt down in Germany. Yeah, that's a little problematic. Yeah, that's the email now, by the way. The criminals will figure this out. They will get better communication going forward on this. Why? Because they're making a shit ton of money. That's the answer. They're making a shit ton of money. How do you scrutinize it? Well, find out if you have a trusted professional. Has somebody actually ever talked to and met that real owner of the real property in the United States that you can talk to? Here's what we do at Focus Title and Knightberry. We actually will send a form letter that we have to the owner of record using their address on the tax bill. And it's a letter that says, hi, we believe your hot property has been listed, an offer to purchase has been signed. We want to verify that we're dealing with the true owner of the real property. Call us back. We're trying to prevent fraud. Here's a code in that letter that's unique to that particular letter. We've actually caught a number of situations doing that in Florida. We want to compare the photo and ID on the seller identification. Franz Dieter, as you saw, I obviously was able to sniff out that fraud. Here's a big one. Have a video call with the seller. A lot of these criminals are going to say, yeah, they're Franz Dieter, but you get up on a video call, they're not going to be Franz Dieter. You're going to be able to sniff out that particular fraud. Plus, they're not necessarily going to be able to have a command of the English language. Require 2 forms of ID. And here's another really fun one. We've had deeds that have been, quote, signed at an embassy in whatever country. We reach out to the embassy in whatever country and verify that the notarial stamp by the embassy official was legit. And we've had at least 3 occasions come back where they said, no, that wasn't legit. And that is a fraudulent notary on that deed. So we've implemented steps at our company to sniff out this fraud. It is coming to Wisconsin. It will be in Wisconsin. Why? Because there's no penalties to these criminals. They can get away with this so long as they fool all of us into ensuring those particular transactions. So wanted to make you aware of this. If you have a situation that arises, please stop. Feel free to reach out to me or anybody at Knightberry, and we'll certainly walk through and try to stop the fraud. Charlie, did I help? I know before you jumped in because you pinpointed something that I hadn't really emphasized sufficiently. Anything else you want me to emphasize here?
Yeah, Sherry, I think we've talked about this ad nauseum, but talk a little bit more about wire fraud and email hacking and 2-factor authentication as well.
Without a doubt, I am going to go ahead and share my screen. You are right. We've been talking about it ad nauseum. We've been talking about it for about 10 years, but wire fraud still exists. And I want to give you an example of a realtor here in the state of Wisconsin that didn't have multi-factor authentication on her email. This was in September of 2022. We identified that criminals had entered the email transactions. And they were trying to fool the buyer into submitting their $52,000 cash to close to the cyber criminals. We jumped on a Zoom call with that realtor who said, no, my email is fine. My email hasn't been compromised. Let me show you how quickly we identified that her email was compromised because she didn't have multi-factor authentication. By the way, no money was lost because we were able to prevent that by reaching out to the bank and getting the money pulled back. But it was a couple hours of heart palpitation that hopefully we can avoid in the future. So we get into a Zoom call with this realtor who said, no, my email hasn't been compromised. And she tells us, this was in September of 2022, it was like September 22nd. She goes, you know what, last week, Thursday, I changed my password in my email, which was a Yahoo account, twice. So we looked and we said, last week, Thursday, the password was changed 1, 2, 3 times. Are you sure you changed it twice? She said, yeah, I changed it twice. Okay, well, let me go through this a little bit more. Let's see what devices have accessed your cloud-based email service. There were 3 devices. The first was a Chrome Windows. That was the device that she was on. That was her laptop. The second was in her iPhone. We said, that's great. The third was a Safari Mobile iOS. And that had been accessed the prior week. And we said, is that you? Did anybody else? Did you use somebody else's email or device to be able to access? She said, no, that's not me. Okay. We're getting a little nervous here. Then we said, okay, let's look at the IP addresses that were utilized to be able to access her cloud-based email. The first was here in Wisconsin. We said, that's fine. Then we looked up these other 2 IP addresses. The first IP address was in West Des Moines, Iowa. We said, were you in West Des Moines, Iowa? She said, no. And then the next one was in New Hampshire, Concord, New Hampshire, sorry. And we said, were you there either? She said, no, I was only in Wisconsin the last couple of weeks. So now we know the email password's been changed 3 times. We know 3 devices have accessed the email, only 2 of which was hers. And we have IP addresses that are problematic. So we keep going a little further. And she goes, well, how did this fraud happen? And we look into her filters. And we see that there are filters that had been created that said anytime an email comes with the email address ending at @knightberry.com, send it over into a folder that she had created called Zillow Invoice. Same as to the buyer's real email. It said anytime an email comes in from the buyer, send it over into the folder Zillow Invoice. The realtor on the other side was century21rs.com. criminals say, please send it over here, and then as well as the lender. And then the criminals had created very similar spoofed emails for all of those parties. For Nightberry, I think they changed an I to a number 1. And there were communications going on between this realtor and the spoofed emails. And none of these real emails did she ever access. Why? Because the criminals had created this little spoofed folder. And in fact, when I had said, hey, I had sent an invite to her for a Zoom meeting, here's the spoof, here's the Zillow invoice folder. You'll see all of these emails have been opened by the cyber criminals. The only one that hadn't been opened was my email to invite her to review and look at her email. And she said, hey, I never received your email, Sherry. I had to get it from my broker. Why? Because my email address ends at nightberry.com, and it had immediately gone into this folder for Zillow invoices. And how did this all happen? Because she didn't have two-step verification. She didn't have it turned on. It's the easiest thing in the world to add multi-factor authentication. All you have to do is jump over to YouTube, type in add two-factor authentication, utilizing whatever your email is, whether it's Gmail, Yahoo, GoDaddy, and then follow the steps. If you don't have it in place right now, stop, do it right now. Charlie, you can emphasize that as well. Talk to all your colleagues, make sure they have multi-factor authentication. Why? Because by not adding that, these cyber criminals had entered this real estate transaction, that and other real estate transactions. And had we not been alert and aware and on top of this, money, at least $52,000 would have been lost. So I've talked ad nauseum. Why? Because it's a lot of money at stake. Last year, $6.9 billion was lost, as reported to the FBI last year, just for cybercrime in the United States, 50 million in the state of Wisconsin alone. So how can we stop it? By adding multi-factor authentication.
Beautiful. Sherry, appreciate it. Guys, again, I know some people are sitting here thinking, oh, this doesn't happen to me, it won't happen. I can just tell you in the last year, we've probably, Sherry and I alone together have probably worked on 3 or 4 of these where we're like, oh, someone's email was hacked. Oh, those aren't the wire instructions that should have been sent. Oh, that's not where you're going to send $250,000 to. It happens every day. It's the number 1 fraud piece within our business. And so I wanted Sherry to come forth to tell you guys real life scenarios to show you how we're trying to prevent it and to educate you, because Robin's story about the vacant land and someone listing her daughter's vacant land 3 different times was real within the last month. And the wire fraud thing we deal with every day. Now, I will also tell you, in the last 6 to 9 months, our teams now, if you've been onboarded in the last 6 to 9 months, we have been going in and switching your settings before you even get to KW to start two-factor authentication. For those of you who have been here longer than, within the past year, you just want to double check that you have those settings set up in order to prevent this sort of fraud activity. Again, not the sexiest of topics, but the worst thing you can do is call me crying because you realize that someone sent $100,000 to someone over in Taiwan or East Africa or anywhere else of where these fraudulent activity is going on. So Sherry, appreciate your help, appreciate your support. And guys, if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to myself or anybody at the team at Focus as well. Sherry is a phenomenal resource for us in our business to help you protect you and protect your clients.
Charlie, can I just say one thing? I just want to say to everyone, thank you. Charlie and Sherry, as well as a number of other people, were very helpful in this incident. And so, yes, in fact, it is happening. And only reason we found out is because my daughter just on a whim checked Zillow. For some reason, she was looking for some information, and there her lot was for sale. So it was pretty shocking. And then it went on to happen 2 more times. So they're very diligent in trying to do what they're trying to do. But Sherry was very helpful, and Charlie. So thank you for bringing this up and letting people be aware.
Absolutely, Robin. Thank you for letting us use it as an example.
You bet.
Cool. Robin, thank you. Sherry, thank you. Steph, I'm flipping it over to you for a little bit more compliance. What do these guys need to pay attention to?
Hi guys, I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me okay, just because
Yep.
all right, good. All right, let's talk about the sexy topic of financing commitment contingency deadline. I'm just going to continue on our theme of going over contract deadlines, potential consequences for what happens if the deadline passes as we're approaching the deadline. So for the financing commitment contingency, it's going to focus solely on the seller termination rights. So I'm just going to read this verbiage real quick, directly lifted from the contract, lines 281 to 283. So if the buyer does not deliver a loan commitment on or before the deadline on line 250, the seller may terminate the offer if seller delivers a written notice of termination to the buyer prior to the seller's actual receipt of the written loan commitment from the buyer. So next slide, Charlie, what this means. Do you want to go to the next slide, Charlie?
Yep, if the deadline passes.
Yep, thank you. So if the deadline passes for loan commitment, the offer does not automatically become null and void due to the passage of the deadline. So we're still very much in contract. It's just that these seller termination rights do kick in now. So the seller termination rights are now granted, and the seller can give a notice declaring the offer null and void at any time until the loan commitment has been delivered. So once the loan commitment has been delivered, even if it is after the deadline, then the financing contingency has been satisfied and the seller can no longer exercise the option to terminate. So if you have any questions about this, please call Joni or I. But again, if that deadline passes, contract is not dead. There are still steps we can take to amend the contract, obviously, and extend that loan commitment deadline. But as always, if you're approaching the deadline, buyer's agents, and we don't have loan commitment to deliver yet, please take the necessary steps to attempt to amend the contract with the seller to extend that deadline. Make sense?
That's right. Deadlines
right.
for action.
Okay, so December 14th is next week, Wednesday. We have 9 days, no, Thursday. We've got 9 days, I'm counting today, to complete your continuing education courses and to renew your license with the DSPS. So again, next slide, Charlie.
Yeah, real quick, for those of you that are on the Zoom or in person, if you're in Zoom, say me. If you're in person, raise your hand. If you still need to do your CE or renew your license, raise your hand or put it in Zoom. Beautiful. Bridget Ty, Ethan Masson. This is what we call public accountability to get your shit done. Here we go.
So go to the WRA to continue to complete your continuing education courses. You're going to go to the education tab. You're going to scroll down from the green menu, go to continuing ed, and then you're going to go to real estate CE, and it'll bring you right to where you need to go. We recommend just doing the on-demand courses, quickest, easiest way to do it.
And don't wait until the 14th because the system will be overloaded. I will just tell you that right now. Yep. You need about 48 hours in advance to get this done. So plan for your deadline to be December 12th.
Thank you. And then once you're done with that, you're going to go to the DSPS. I've got instructions in Facebook, but email me. I will be happy to quickly send you the instructions to renew your license with the DSPS. But next slide, if you want to show what that website looks like, you're going to go to self-service. And then from there, you'll go to the professions. I won't go through each of these steps right now, but I've got all of this posted in Facebook, and it should be a featured post. So it's right at the top of the page.
Beautiful.
December 14th. Then GMAR dues. We've got until the 31st to pay them. Right now, you're going to add $50 to the total that is shown on your invoice because we are after December 1st. And then after January 1st, you're treated as a new member and you're going to add $225 to that total invoice. So save yourselves $225. That's a lot of money. Get it right. Pay your dues.
What's the deadline, Steph?
December 31st, Charlie.
Yeah, but the deadline really on all of this is when?
December 12th.
December 12th. December 12th. Don't wait till the last minute, Ethan, Bridget. All right. There's some every year. Listen, I'll just tell you. We know. Stillman came to my office last week and said, Chuck, you'll be very proud of me. I've already got it done. Newbie, I know you were in Mexico last week, but you got to get your stuff together. Come on, get your stuff done. All right, here we go. Flipping it over. Brannick, what do you got? Tech and marketing updates. Brannick.
Right. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right. So you guys, we have talked about smart plans quite a bit lately. And so I just wanted to take a few minutes to kind of go through what is a smart plan? What can it do for your business? And so we talk about all the time, automate, 3Xing your activities. Smart plans is the way to do that. So you can automate your listing checklist, your marketing touch points, your drip campaigns. And so as a Keller Williams agent, you have access to thousands of different smart plans within Command. So the great thing about it is they're all from top agents, other market center tech trainers, regional tech trainers, KWRI, and so many more. So if you're looking to piece together and really customize your 36 touch marketing plan, you can do that with smart plans. Lead follow-up. If you have open house leads that you've entered into your database in Command, if you're doing Facebook ad campaigns, there are specific smart plans for that lead follow-up. There are call plans if you want to reach out to your database every 90 days, every single month. There are call plans for that, buyer and seller specific communication. And so if you think of a topic, there is a smart plan for that type of communication within Command. Next slide, Charlie. The other thing that makes it even easier to automate these smart plans is setting up tag triggers. So tags are a great way to segment your database. But within smart plans, you can add a tag as a smart plan trigger. Then any lead or contact in your database that you add with that tag will automatically be added to that specific smart plan. So this is a going forward trigger, meaning that if you have any leads or contacts already tagged with that specific tag, they won't be added to the smart plan. But you can also add up to 10 contact tag triggers per smart plan. So an example of this is, let's say you want to add your entire sphere of influence to the quarterly call plan, and any new contacts that you add into your database and you tag them with sphere or SOI, they will automatically then get added to that smart plan. So it eliminates that step of you having to go in and actually physically add them, that contact, to that smart plan. As long as you have them tagged, they'll automatically get added. And that's the case for any smart plan. And so it's a really simple, go in, edit that smart plan, add the tag trigger. Very, very simple. And so if you want to learn more about smart plans, if you want to set these up and get these rolling, starting at the end of the month or starting for 2023, this month, you guys, we have all of our tech and marketing trainings on Zoom. And so every Thursday this month, so the 8th, the 15th, and the 22nd, these trainings are over Zoom. And so this week, December 8th, we are going over smart plans. So I'll be going through some specific smart plans that I think are really valuable that are in the smart plan library, how to customize and create your own smart plans. And so I know last week I talked about the KW Milwaukee library that we have. So I'll dive into that, how you can go in and add those into your library, how you can create your own. And then the 15th and the 22nd, same thing. We've got tech and marketing training on Zoom on Thursdays at 11 a.m. All right,
Beautiful.
that's all I got. Thank you.
Now, guys, I know some of you are thinking, why is this via Zoom? Why is this via Zoom? We are doing this to upload our video library on YouTube so that when people want to go back to see smart plans, agent websites, or sales pipeline, it's the most relevant and up-to-date data based on where the platform is today. So on occasion, when we sprinkle these Zoom type trainings is because we're actually doing it to add more to our library so that you guys can utilize the information in other ways. Does that make sense? Lastly, if you haven't thought, and I challenged the group last year at this time, if you haven't thought about automate your database, leverage is the new hustle. Think about how you're automating your database and how you're touching your people in a multitude of ways, because I really believe you have to 2x your database and 3x your activities in order for you to earn the same amount of income that you did in 2022. The way in which that you can do that in a really high and powerful way is smart plans. Leverage Lindsay, because as I said last week, Lindsay is a hidden gem. Absolutely phenomenal at what she does. And guess what? You don't have to show up on a Zoom to learn what she's doing. You can schedule one-on-ones with her. If you have a team, she'll sit down and help you guys clean up your databases, whatever it is that you may need. Lindsay is here to make sure that you are touching your database in a way that creates automate, 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 automate. Right, Lindsay?
100%.
Love it. Thanks, Vranik. All right, here we go. Quick update for you, finance operations. If you moved in 2022, we need to know where to send your 1099. So when April 15th comes around, that you have access to all the reports that you may need. If you moved, please make sure that you're reaching out to Jen or Emily to provide them with your updated address. Last two things, and I'll round out this morning's team meeting, trainings and events. 10x your database. We talked about database, automate, automate, automate. You have to do 2x your database and 3x your activities. Tina is going to go through how to 10x your database on Thursday over here in Tosa at 1 o'clock. Join the conversation. It's fantastic in ways in which that you can 10x your database. Next, December training calendar. Here you go. We have team meeting on the 13th and the 20th. After the 20th, there's no team meeting due to the holidays and various other things. For those of you that are invited to Maureen and Friends, there's a Maureen and Friends next week, Friday the 16th. Okay, be on the lookout for that invite. Lastly, there's a few other office specific holiday celebrations coming forward. The ever so popular Lake Country White Elephant is next week, this week, Thursday at 11 o'clock. In North Shore next week after team meeting is a cookie exchange. And then in Innovation on the 20th, right after team meeting, is a White Elephant exchange. I'd encourage you to participate. It's amazing some of the humor and laughter that you will get in finding ways in which some of your peers you never knew were so funny. I'd encourage you to show up. Lastly, register now for Ignite, whether you've been in the business for a long time or just resetting your foundation. Ignite, we're hosting it in New Berlin for all 4 market centers across the Milwaukee area with a variety of instructors across a variety of different geographies. Diversity of thought and diversity of approach is incredibly powerful and impactful for you and your business. You don't have to be new to attend Ignite. I think Lindsay Weber, and I'm going to give a shout out to Lindsay Weber. Weber has taken the course 4 or 5 times. And I say, Lindsay, why do you keep showing up to this? And she goes, because I find value in learning the ways in which all these people do their business and then take bits and pieces every single time to implement it within what it is that we do. So if you're interested in Ignite, there's the QR code to get signed up and registered. Lastly, from a training and education standpoint, Family Reunion is coming up February 18th to the 21st. Tickets are on sale now. Here's what I'd tell you. There is a reason why the majority of the top 20% attend. Speed of the leaders, speed of the pack. If you want to know what the top people in the industry are doing, I'd highly consider the investment you can make in going to California in the middle of February. Okay? Seriously, talk to a multitude of people from Jay Schmidt to Rick Rubin to Bruce Gallagher to Connie Cummings to Janine to anybody else. There's a reason why those guys show up every single year, because again, what we think of as the microcosm for Ignite is the macrocosm, if that's even a word, for Family Reunion, in the ways in which that you can learn, okay, how are the coasts doing it? How is the South doing it? What's going on in Florida? What's going on in the Twin Cities? What's going on in Chicago? And we always plan fun events while we're in these cities. So stay tuned for more information. I can tell you there's already about 15 people registered from Milwaukee specifically that plan on attending Family Reunion. If you want to know more, ping me, text me, let's go sit down. I'd love to talk more about Family Reunion. Again, it's not a pitch. We don't get anything out of it. I just see the impact it's made on people's lives and their businesses. Highly, highly recommend it. We're going to be talking a little bit more about Family Reunion next week from those that have attended and why they made the investment to attend. All right, I'm going to wrap it up because I haven't done this in a while with very few small weekly insights that I'm seeing. Okay, first up, showing time activity. This is North America. This is the positive in the data, okay? You can see here, orange is 2022 data, dark blue is 2021 data, light blue is 2021 data. You can see a 3-year regression on showing activity across North America, okay? As I've stated before, and I'll continue to state again, we're in a very fortunate situation. The gap here in Wisconsin is shrunk, Okay, if you look here of 2022 versus 2020 versus 2021, and you compare that versus where our peers are across the rest of North America, we're in a very fortunate situation that demand activity still remains to be pretty incredibly strong. Now, that's relative. Strong versus what the headwinds we're up against, I think is very, very positive news. Okay. I firmly believe the number one reason why more deal activity isn't being had isn't because of rates. I think it's because simply a lack of inventory and sellers not wanting to bring their house to the market. How do I know? Let's dive into it. Okay. Here is the units that are under contract on a week by week basis going all the way back through June. Now, don't freak out at this trend line. Here's why. Seasonally, this is following seasonal trends. Okay. We're sitting here post Thanksgiving. Guess what? Newsflash, December isn't lighting the world on fire in residential real estate. Okay. So don't look at these trends and be concerned. Here's why I see positivity in the trends. Now, 1 week's an anomaly, 2 weeks a trend. If you look at last week coming out of Thanksgiving, there were 336 units that went under contract. If you look going back from the week before Thanksgiving into October, we were averaging around 350 units going under contract. So the fact that we went from around in October and November, 350 units under contract to 336, demand is actually still relatively decent. It's not horrible. It hasn't fallen off a cliff. If I had saw 2 weeks of 239, or if we dipped below 200.
Charlie, you're covering your mic with your hand.
My bad. I'd be a little concerned. Thanks for the heads up, Cotty. Now, let's take a look at sales absorption. Sales absorption is the percentage of units that go under contract in a given week. Last week was 8.6% of the units that went under contract. Now, let's take a look past in the last few months of data going back to October. What do you notice? Sales absorption rates were hovering right around between 8 to 9% for the last 6 to 8 weeks. Okay. Heading into the first week of December, that's positivity in terms of what we see in terms of buyer demand and buyer capacity to want to get a deal done, despite where rates are. You feel me? Now, here's where you start to see where it's starting to fall off. New unit inventory. So this is new inventory coming to the marketplace, again, on a week by week basis, going all the way back to June 20th. Okay. There is historical seasonality to this data. And yet we have 347, 206, 351 the last 3 weeks, right? And you can see going back to October, remember, we were sitting right around 350 units per week that was going under contract going back to October, with new unit inventory that was up around 500-600 units. As new unit inventory continues to decline heading into December and January, you'll start to see the units going under contract start to decline with it, because there's simply a lack of inventory coming to the marketplace. The reason why I bring this up now is you have a real opportunity these next 3 to 4 weeks, while inventory starts to slow, as it always does during the holidays, to talk and start to build up either your new listing inventory for January, February, or keep buyers engaged through the holiday season to get them over the hump once the calendar flips over. Now, again, the positivity in this news is I took units under contract and I took new unit inventory and I overlaid them into a bar graph. Again, what I want you to hear from a buyer and seller perspective is people are still buying homes. So if you're going on a listing appointment and people are afraid of their home not selling, it's not the truth. If you have buyers that think that they're going to get a sweet deal, that's not the truth. How do I know that? The last 3 to 4 weeks, units going under contract has outpaced new unit inventory coming to the marketplace. Okay. So again, my message to you today is, looking at the last 3 to 4 weeks of data, is buyer demand remains strong despite the headwinds we've seen within the industry. Now, here's the total units for sale inventory going back to June. You know, the latest 12 weeks versus the previous 12 weeks, it's only down 6%. Again, that's not earth changing. That's not life changing stuff. My point to it is this: the market is in southeastern Wisconsin has remained relatively stable and healthy. It's following the cyclical nature and the way in which this business happens. Keep engaged with your database, tell the story of what's going on in the marketplace. Sellers that are thinking about listing now during December, Not a bad time to sell. Why? Because we know that demand still remains strong. They can still get good price points for what they believe and the return on that investment of their asset. Stay positive with your people. You will attract positive people and you will get deals done. Guys, there's your team meeting for December 6th. Have a phenomenal day. Enjoy a beautiful day. If there's anything you need, we're here to support you and serve you. Lake Country, I'll let you jump over to the Lake Country meetup. North Shore crew, Mandy's going to lead us through new listings and buyer needs, and Josh and I are going to lead the TOSA crew through new listings and buyer needs. Guys, have a great week. Thanks for showing up.